Good morning, everyone. I actually have quite a lot of house chores to do today. We're going to be having another bout of rain, and that's a perfect opportunity for me to do things inside. Before I get to the dishes and the laundry and everything else that I need to do today, I am going to be putting some cherry tomatoes in the dehydrator. I'm a really big fan of multitasking, and sometimes the dehydrator can take a few hours to work and do its magic. So while the dehydrator is dehydrating, I can do all my house chores. So before I get to the dishes and all that, I'm going to be cutting up some tomatoes, and I'm going to bring you with me. So it's officially cherry tomato season. We have harvested a few of the bigger slicers and paste tomatoes, but this is what we can expect just about every other day from the garden. There's a whole bunch of different types in here. This one is the blue cream berry. It's really, really cute. My favorite is the super sweet 100. It's very tangy, sweet, acidic. This has a lot of great different flavor profiles within one tiny cherry tomato. We also have some, what I think this is a sun gold, and I do have some of those yellow pear tomatoes in here as well, and they're all going to be going in the dehydrator. Now that the tray is full, I've got the tomatoes all inside up. I'm going to take a little bit of pink Himalayan salt and salt over the top of the tomatoes. Okay, I'm going to set this in the dehydrator and then complete the process for the rest of today's tomatoes. So I imagine that if you wanted to, you could place the tomato cut side down on the mat. Problem being for me, I want the salt to stick to the tomato, and that's really not going to happen if I've got it, inside down. And when the dehydrator dehydrates this tomato down, it's going to shrink in size and get kind of tacky, and it's going to stick to this mat here and be more difficult to remove, and you may lose some dehydrated tomato amidst these little cracks, and it would make cleaning hard and all that. So that's why I dehydrate these with the cut side up and skin down. We're using the Excalibur food dehydrator to dehydrate down our cherry tomatoes today. You could use your oven. My Excalibur is set at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. It's as high as it will go. My oven only gets down to 170, but I feel like it could work. Experiment with small batches before you go ahead and load up your oven if you don't have a food dehydrator. Some different cookie sheet surfaces will react differently. Some are designed to crisp things, for example, while others may not crisp up at all. Others may burn them and not dehydrate them. So work with what you've got, but work in small batches until you know what works. If you have a convection oven, that may work better because the convection oven circulates the heat throughout the oven and you won't get any hot spots and something like that. I haven't tried to dehydrate cherry tomatoes in my oven before. I feel like it could work, but like I said, test out small batches before you go ahead and take my word for it. All that being said though, I think it's a good investment for your homestead to invest in the tools that you need to preserve your harvest. I've experienced before where I've been trying to, for example, dehydrate herbs in my oven while also realizing, oh no, it's time to start dinner. So one thing has to come out of the oven in order for the other thing to go in, and for me, it's a little bit difficult to do what I love, which is multitask, when I have only really one tool at my disposal for a bunch of projects that overlap. You don't have to go crazy getting anything big and expensive, but I really would suggest, if you can, purchasing a separate food dehydrator for your harvest. Hey guys, so it's the next day. My tomatoes were in the dehydrator probably for a total of 8 hours on 165. I did flip them over, like I turned the tray in the dehydrator at around the 6-hour mark because they were more dry on the back half where the fan is on the dehydrator and less dry in the front, so I just flipped them around. But this is what we've got. Beautifully dried cherry tomatoes. So now I'm going to show you how I store these. All right, so get you a mason jar. It could be wide mouth or narrow mouth. It doesn't really matter for these. This mat and this dehydrator pan sheet comes up and it's flexible, and as you can see, most of the tomatoes just slide around real well. I'm going to use this to my advantage and use this mat here as kind of a funnel to funnel these into my mason jar. And funnel them straight in. Okay. I'm going to do that with all 3 sheets. See how dry they are? Nice and crispy, okay? I would definitely suggest that before you add them into a jar, allow them to cool completely, because you don't want any of that heat to kind of transfer into your jar, maybe bring a little bit of condensation with it. You want everything to be completely cool and dry. So that's why we are at the next day for this process. I just turn the dehydrator off and let them sit in the dehydrator overnight. And that's 3 trays worth. Probably used to be a gallon's worth of cherry tomatoes condensed into less than a quart. So my favorite way to preserve these is vacuum sealing. Before I go ahead and vacuum seal this jar shut, I'm going to put in a desiccant pack to absorb any moisture that might be left in the tomatoes. These are the brand we've purchased. We got them on Amazon. And these are actually rechargeable, so you can actually, when you're done with these and the little beads turn blue to let you know that they've absorbed as much moisture as they're going to, you can actually put these straight in your dehydrator and dry them out completely and reuse them. But this one's brand new and good to go. I'm just gonna stick one in the top. And here I have a canning lid. This one looks like I have used it before. There's a little bit of an impression on the rubber seal. I have had success reusing from canned goods in order to vacuum seal. I have less success with jars that were pressure sealed versus jars that were water bath canned. So take that into consideration when you reuse your own lids. Place that on. We got this vacuum sealer off of Amazon as well. And inside here, it's got a little accessory port where I can put our jar sealing accessory. So it comes with this little lid. This one is for the narrow mouth jars, and it comes with this vacuum hose. One end goes straight into the accessory port. The other end goes into the top here, nice and snug. And then we're gonna place our lid on top of our jar, no ring, and the suction tool straight on top. There's a button here where we press to induce the suction, and it will do its magic on its own. Once the noise stops and it's done doing its magic, you're going to want to remove the vacuum hose and then carefully take off the vacuum seal accessory lid here. A lot of times this little gasket comes out, it pops right back in, no problem. And we're perfectly sealed here. And as always, you want to label your jar. I have tomatoes, and I'm just going to put the month and the year down. And that's it, guys. It really is that easy to preserve your cherry tomatoes for use over the winter. Whenever a recipe calls for diced tomatoes, this is what I use. I also have been known to put them in many different types of pasta dishes, rehydrate them and throw them into salads. One of the great things about dehydrated cherry tomatoes is they never get fully this full of water again. Even when you rehydrate them with water or broth, they never contain this much water ever again. And that means that you retain a lot of those concentrated sugars, and the flavors are amazing. Not to mention, they just make a really great healthy snack. I have found that they really help contribute to that beautiful fifth taste that we have. The umami taste definitely comes to your dish when you add these dehydrated tomatoes. You could add them to pizza, you could add them to your pasta sauce to make it a little bit more chunky. You could put them in casseroles. There's a bunch of different applications. When you just need that little bit of a acidic kick, a little bit more umami, consider these in your pantry. And you may or may not be able to see, but I picked these while those ones were drying. So I have to repeat the process again very, very soon. It is definitely harvest and preserving season, and I'm glad you came along with me for some of that process.